This is the Orioles Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Baltimore Orioles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
When it rains, it pours. You got to hand it to this Baltimore Orioles team. Like I've said in episodes past, it's been one step forward and then one step back. Very much a Jekyll and Hyde day and night performance from this team on offense and from the pitching staff. Today, we're talking about a 4-1 loss to the Kansas City Royals. I want to thank you for joining the Locked On Orioles postcast with me, Luke Slabaugh. I'm your post-game host. A 4-1 loss by the Orioles at the hands of the Kansas City Royals here on this Sunday afternoon. I want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for joining me wherever you may be. This is available on all your free podcast platforms and also streaming live on YouTube. I run this whole show myself, here to fill in the gaps after each game, giving you instant post-game reaction. Connor Newcomb still gives you the Locked On Orioles podcast that you've grown to know and love all these years. 5 days a week, Connor is still here. He will be with you for an episode tomorrow morning. He's probably taking his notes right now because there's a lot we got to cover here in the next 15, 20 minutes. 4-1 loss in the rubber game against the Kansas City Royals. Consistently inconsistent is how one would define this Orioles team, and it does not bode well after a 4-6 start. We have come to see and expect a domino effect from this team. One minor miscue, someone doesn't get out of the inning, there's a 2-out misplay in left field, and then everything starts to fall off a cliff. Post haste. Baseball is a game of inches. It is won in the margins. And when the Orioles have won, they've capitalized by putting pressure on opponents or capitalizing on errors or mental miscues. Unfortunately, they have not been able to recover from them. This game had a lot more going for it than I think a lot of casual baseball fans would understand. Coming into this game 4-5, a chance to win your first series of the season and extend some momentum into this road trip. Unfortunately, as they head out to Arizona and into the desert, the Orioles are 4-6 after dropping this rubber match to lefty Cade Povich and the Kansas City Royals 4-1. If you were following along, I listened to the first couple innings on the radio. I was actually getting back from lunch with a friend. I think my table might still not be ready at Miss Shirley's there in Baltimore, but there was a little bit of a rain. And so that's why I put the thumbnail, when it rains, ... it pours, because one thing goes wrong and the composure starts to slip on this Orioles team. The turning point, well, it was in the first inning, and I heard Jeff Arnold's call on the radio, and oof, it's time to talk about Jorge Mateo.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
I do enjoy your comments, and I will go through them after each episode. Usually I'm more eager to do it after wins than losses, but I can see in StreamYard, like, as I'm waiting to launch the show, when I'm putting all my elements in, like, I've already seen a couple of disconcerted comments from Orioles fans, and I'm with you on them. The roster makeup through these first 10 games leaves me scratching some hairs, scratching the hairs on my head. The turning point here starts with Jorge Mateo in center field. His 12th career start at the position. Lefty Cade Povich on the mound, one 24-year-old Cade Jackie Povich, and bottom of the first started out auspiciously enough. Tyler O'Neill kind of hesitated on a line drive that made a nice catch to rob Jonathan India of a base hit. And then Povich leaves a hanging breaking ball to Bobby Witt Jr. over the heart of the plate, sliced into right center field, tagged pretty well. And man, if Cedric Mullins is out there and is able to run that ball down even in the sun, seems routine. Mateo was maybe a foot away from where it was, and by the time he had adjusted his glove and placement, it missed. Completely missed. You can go back and look at the play, but that is a ball that a major league outfielder needs to catch on the line. Bobby Witt Jr., one of the fastest base runners in the league, probably the fastest in the American League, goes to third base, and that was the start of the unraveling and the start of a 3-run first inning for Kansas City. That's what happens with the O's. They fall back on their heels, and they can't come back from that. They fall to 4-6, and even more so, try to go through these first 10 games. 4 wins. How many comebacks has Baltimore made in those 4 wins? Just the one. Game 3, they came back from a minor deficit in Toronto, I believe with Dean on the mound. Yeah, Dean Kramer on the mound. 1 win by comeback this season, middle innings as that. The ability to turn a game on its head, to fight the tide, is what separates the playoff teams from the non-playoff teams. I pose this question to you, and I want to hear your comments. You can leave them on the podcast app where you're listening, or on YouTube if you're watching and with me right now. Again, I want to thank you for joining me. We're talking about a 4-1 loss to Kansas City here on the Locked On Orioles podcast post-game show. Was this a serious lineup? Is Jorge Mateo the choice in center field? Rubber game, early in the season, playoff hopes, auspices still out there. Cedric Mullins been hitting cover off the ball, probably the team MVP right now. Correct me if you think I'm wrong on that, but Cedric has been nails. You're going up against a reverse splits lefty in Cade Povich, one who is growing in confidence in his stuff. He bottomed out maybe 3 years ago on some terribly managed Mike Matheny teams, reinvented himself last year as a reliever coming off Tommy John surgery, and now mowed down Milwaukee and was cooking today. You were going to get the best effort out of the young Povich. And I got to wonder, for manager Brandon Hyde, where was Heston Kjerstad? Last 2 games in this series, I have done fierce segments. You can go back and listen and watch. And I am a proponent of him making the most of these next 2 months. You put him in a position to fail. You did it a couple days ago against the lefty. You did it against a reverse splits righty and Michael Wacha, and you saw how he was able to react to breaking pitches and off-speed pitches and showed decent discipline at the plate. Kjerstad did get in, but a little bit too little too late. Struck out looking. Ball kind of on the fringe, lower inside of the zone. You put your most talented players in a position to fail. And if we're being honest, don't think Jorge Mateo has the ceiling that you want out of your first round pick in Kjerstad. These baseball managers, for as analytically inclined as they are in these front offices, you still see an old time honored tradition by major league managers of making these homogenous right-handed heavy or left-handed heavy lineups dependent on the matchup. Sometimes there isn't enough data or sample size to back it up. I also wonder, what if Ramon Laureano had started in center field? Used to make highlight reel plays with the A's and the Braves, a versatile defender. If you want to put Jorge Mateo in the lineup so bad, find somewhere else to put him. Maybe give Gunnar Henderson relief because he is struggling out there. That's a story for another time. Mateo enters this game with a negative 100 OPS plus. Again, these are the first 2 weeks of the season. I'm not going to make huge demands or sweeping judgments and decisions. There's no finality to this. They're 4-6. They're not 0-10. Come on. Negative 100 OPS plus, as in producing 100% worse than a league replacement level player, 100% worse than average. It ain't working out right now. And it's on the front office, and I think on the field level, Brandon Hyde to figure this one out. What do you do with him? Of course, he had the UCL surgery a season ago. Maybe there's still some rust from that. Maybe they're taking it patiently with him. This roster was allegedly built to contend. I have some more thoughts on that later in the second block. This show honestly might go longer than anticipated. Try to cap it in the 20 to 25 range, but we got a lot to talk about. One could argue that Dylan Carlson could have been retained after Gunner's call-up, so at least you had an athlete out there who has more experience playing center field than Jorge Mateo. Maybe there's some pride in this with GM Mike Elias. Maybe the O's don't want to swallow all the money that they had to pay Mateo to avoid arbitration with him. But where does he have the best chance to succeed on the field? I'm going to argue not center field. If he's a bench player, who is he relieving? We've got Ramon Urias, Gold Glover at third base. Seems to be holding his own there in a utility backup role. And then the rest of the infield's accounted for. There's a logjam in there. And a lot of you have been commenting on this the first few games. I kind of stayed my distance because I'm waiting for this season to develop, but he's on the outs. Am I being unfair? Am I being too vindictive 10 games into the season? You tell me. But that is the impression I have. We're going to talk about Cade Povich. This was not the worst outing of his career. It was not awful. It was, I would even venture to say it is not bad. The broadcast on Masson kept using the word scattered, and he did. Scattered 13 hits over 6 innings. And you look at the box score, and 13 hits is never going to give you a sense of confidence. But there was some trouble I think he had with his sweeper later in the first inning after he gave up that triple to Witt and he scored on the sac fly. He was missing his spots. He left a sweeper up high to Michael Massey. Massey mashes it for a 2-run double, and that put the Orioles behind the 8-ball, down 3-0 after the first frame. Then in the second, he opens up with 4 consecutive hits. One of those being a runner gunned down at second base. I believe it was Freddie Fermin. I'll have to go back and check that out during the break. Surrendered a wild pitch. And after that, worked out of some trouble. He surrendered hits in every innings that he appeared. Defense turned a 5-4-3 double play to get him out of the 5th. Yes, it was Freddie Fermin on that RBI single. I appreciate that. He limited the damage, Povich did. Scattered 13 hits over 6 innings. Final line on him, go 6. First Orioles starter, not named Zach Eflin to do that. 4 runs, all earned. 4 strikeouts, which is half of what he had in the home opener against Boston. And an encouraging sign, granted playing at Kauffman Stadium, no home runs, no walks. Had a sick pickoff move. Got Michael Garcia at second base there in the bottom of the 6th. So some good, some bad. More efficient with his pitches. He leaves with 88 thrown, 61 for strikes. Again, love to hear your comments. Thank you for joining me on the Sunday evening on the Orioles postcast. Actually, I can't say evening yet. We're about 15 minutes away from that. This is live, always on YouTube. I'm here every game. My name is Luke Slaybaugh, filling in the gaps for the postcasts while Connor Newcomb gives you your show 5 days per week. Coming up, I hinted at something earlier that when you start to slip the moment a call doesn't go your way or a ball is dropped or missed in the outfield, if you can't recover from those situations on the margins, it often points to a lack of composure and a lack of leadership. And I'm going to pose this question to you. Again, 10 games into the season. Is there a lack of leadership on this team? And is it waiting and relying too much on Gunnar Henderson? Gunnar coming back from the right intercostal strain, feeling his way out these first 3 games that he's been back. Yes. Is he the missing piece? Could be. And we're going to talk more about that and get into some more specifics after this break. But first, it is time for ad copy. And I got to throw all these layouts up here. Orioles Postcast brought to you by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fuel in your body, Lord, do we know this, quality matters. And that's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients is also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Whether you're recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's one word, LOCKEDONMLB, for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Thank you so much to Just Ingredients for sponsoring this show. And we got one more. The show is brought to you by Gametime. Nothing better than catching an MLB game live, even if it is an Orioles loss, baseball stadium. There's nothing like live sports. If you're looking to go last minute, got to go with Gametime. Last minute deals, all in pricing, lowest price guaranteed. Gametime takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. And as the game time gets closer, as we inch towards first pitch, the ticket prices drop. This makes finding the best deals effortless, filters out the fluff, and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. That's the Gametime Picks feature. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use that same code I just mentioned, this time Locked On MLB, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account with Gametime and redeem code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you to Gametime for sponsoring this show. I do appreciate it. Can't wait to put on my hazmat suit and jump into the comment section after this one. Gunnar Henderson is rusty. I think that's fair to say, but the O's, for the most part, seemed rusty today. Couldn't solve left-hander Cade Povich. Changeup was an effective out pitch, caught them off balance, got him swinging quite a bit, and even froze a couple of hitters as well. Final line on the lefty Povich, 6 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. That is good for a 0.71 ERA through his first 2 starts. That 1 earned run, by the way, surrendered on a wild pitch with Gary Sanchez at the plate, Ryan Mountcastle booking it home. I had mentioned in the first block of the show that an inability to mount comebacks or to minimize the damage from mistakes that you make often points to a lack of composure and leadership. You see it early on in the season, maybe not the first couple of series, but any team that is not destined for October has this problem. When the game is out of reach early and you can tell, there's an issue and you got to address it. It is often also a focus thing. You would think that some of these problems that we saw in the Boston series and Toronto series would be satiated by Gunnar Henderson coming back. And it is clear that he is not all the way back yet. Yes, had a quick rehab stint in AAA Norfolk, but if anyone is going to help this team get over the hump and get past these issues, it should be your MVP candidate, your all-star, your 37 home run shortstop. Since getting a hit in his 1-for-4 debut Friday in Kansas City, he has gone 0 for 9. Gunnar Henderson has 7 strikeouts in 3 games. He is not all there. And yet, we should be practicing patience with the 23-year-old star shortstop. He's rusty. Hats off to the Royals pitchers for nibbling the corners, but yet I would pose this question to you and maybe look at this moving forward. Do the Orioles need to rethink their lineup right now as Gunnar Henderson works his way back? Now, I don't know how to put this. If this team is competing, and you also want to accelerate his improvement or his amelioration, healing from this intercostal injury and getting him into full game mode, it would make sense for him to hit at the top of the lineup and hit in the lineup spot as he did many times last year in AAA. And yet he was eligible to be activated off the injured list Thursday, came back for that Friday game against Kansas City. And it may not be helping this team to put him in that spot in the order. In fact, it may be worth experimenting, swapping him and Jackson Holliday. As much as I've praised having Holliday down there as a threat in the bottom of the lineup, hitting in that 7 through 9 spot, added some really good thump and had a heck of a day yesterday. Would have liked to have seen him go up against the lefty today. But there's a lot of questions that need to be answered about this team. I certainly don't have all of them. Maybe Connor will tomorrow. There was one bright spot on offense. He scored the game's first run. I am going to play this animation, tongue planted firmly in cheek. It's a 4-1 game. It's time to award our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
It's Ryan Mountcastle. All that talk, all that chirping from Bob Nightingale that he may be on the trade block 5 games into the season. Ryan Mountcastle goes 3 for 4, 2 singles and a triple in the top of the 7th, hit it into that right field corner. Scored on a wild pitch with Gary Sanchez at the plate. Mountie continues to swing a hot bat, seems unfazed whether it's right-hander or left-hander. 3 for 4 with a run scored. He's now batting .324 on the season. The Orioles as a team were 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. Had some flashy plays. Ramon Laureano gunning down Freddie Fermin at second base. Cade Povich with the pickoff. Bullpen continues to be a semi-bright spot, unfortunately, in low leverage situations. But so far for the year, Sir Anthony Dominguez and Yennier Cano combined 0.000 ERA. Plenty more to come. So my final thoughts. We're 10 games into this season, and oh boy, we got about 150 more together, you and me. So I appreciate you again listening and watching to the Locked on Orioles postcast, talking about a 4-1 loss to the Kansas City Royals today. I do not see through 10 games the quality rotational depth that GM Mike Elias said was there and needed to add over the offseason. The horses are coming. Grayson Rodriguez making progress in his rehab, should be back by the end of the month. Kyle Bradish in the second half seems to be progressing well in his rehab, but again, post All-Star break probably is his return date. Kyle Gibson reportedly will soon join AAA Norfolk to warm up and get MLB ready. He's 37 years old. I would not put all my eggs in the Kyle Gibson basket. However, University of Missouri alum, guy knows ball. By the time everyone is in the boat and this team is, knock on wood, healthy, I hope that didn't turn off. Sometimes you got to look down and make sure it didn't turn off your microphone. By the time everyone's in the boat, this season could be out of reach. And that is the hesitance and the trepidation that I have. Am I overreacting? Maybe. It's a 4-6 start. There's plenty salvageable left. There's plenty more to come. And it all starts tomorrow night. 9:40 first pitch. O's out into the desert playing the Arizona Diamondbacks at Chase Field, city of my birth, Phoenix, Arizona. First pitch is at 9:40 on Masson 2. It's right-hander Zach Eflin against right-hander Zach Gallen, two-time All-Star, former Cardinals prospect, traded to the Miami Marlins in the Marcell Ozuna trade. Gallen carved out quite a career for himself. And if you're asking, do these Orioles postcasts apply to those late West Coast games? You bet your bottom dollar they do. So 3 hours after first pitch, we're going to schedule a midnight baseball fiesta here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube and on your podcast feed as well. We're going to be up late, well past midnight, probably into 1 a.m. And hopefully, fingers crossed, talking about a quality win. Zach Eflin on the bump. Things look auspicious. But let me know your thoughts. I want to again thank you for listening to the Locked On Orioles postcast. If you're listening in your podcast feed, wherever you get your podcast or watching on YouTube, I really appreciate you taking the time. I look forward to building this community with you, getting to know some of you all, and embracing what we all hope to be a really special season for a team that we all enjoy and a game that we really love. So my name is Luke Slaybaugh, giving you the Orioles postcast after every game, saying thank you for listening. Final score, Kansas City Royals 4, the Baltimore Orioles 1. Thanks. Have a blessed Sunday.